What is good, Josh? I'm Smooth Game Man, back with yet another reaction video, baby. And today we are back with another Anime Tuesday, baby. This is why is Konoha the strongest hidden village? I want to go ahead and check this out for you guys so we can get it up here for the day. Me personally, just being a Naruto fan, I think it's pretty easy to see why Konoha is the strongest village. I mean, when you really think about what we know about the other villages, the sand is just so isolated. I don't even think it like joined up a bunch of clans together to make it. I think they just kind of went out to it's got no business type of going on. Like they have no way of making really money. They're isolated from everything. They're in the middle of a sandstorm to get to them. And then when you get there, it seems like the only jutsus that they have outside of like the Kekkei Genkai of being able to move sand and magnetize sand, which is only in the Kage family, puppet user tree, and what Tamara using wind style. But what else do we really see from them except from straight up hands? You go to the village in the clouds. I mean, they're pretty tough. I'm not gonna lie to you, that lightning jutsu is unmatched up there. There's not as many clans, as many different hidden jutsus up there. It's pretty much just a lot of lightning style from almost everybody that's up there. Just really, really fast though, and really good. And then they got good kenjutsu too, good sword usage. The wind, or not the wind, what am I talking about? Village hidden in the rain. I mean, really hear anything about them. I mean, they've kind of stomped all over during the war, so it's pretty easy to see why they're weak. The stone village, I mean, they're really, them in the mist, we barely really see them. I mean, we got a couple missions that go into their villages, but I mean, outside of like, even the mist leader is kind of weak most of the time. We see them, it's like the weakest of the whole Kage, or the Kages, in my opinion, almost every iteration. And then the stone, I mean, you don't really see them outside of the particle style, and that's just from the Kage. Don't really see them get active like that. I mean, it's just also too what's perceived. Now obviously there might be data books, might be stuff only in the manga or side books, what are they called, light novels that might show their talents a little bit more. But from everything we've seen from them, outside the 7 ninja swordmen of the mist, and then the Sushi Kage, and then the lightning style from the cloud, there's not really too much that we really see. I mean, outside of the Jinchuriki too, as well as the hidden village, the Elite Village was the only one that got just one tail beast. I mean, everybody else got 2, except for the sand too. They only got 1, but that's also because they captured their own and didn't want to buy. So outside of that though, split evenly, the Elite got 1, already strong.
I think it's common knowledge amongst most Naruto fans that Konoha is the strongest village in all of the Naruto-verse. It's dominated most of the wars it's participated in. It held the largest sway in the 4th Great Ninja War. And more importantly than anything, all the main character-esque characters seem to come from there. Name 5 characters from the Hidden Stone. Oh wait, but we ever sat back and wondered why?
I ain't gonna lie, I can't do it. Keep in mind, I'm anime only, so like I'm not like the best person to ask this question. But I guess you could say, like, as far as the average and even slightly above average Naruto fans, they're probably not doing that. Unless you're somebody like him that literally studies it, rewatches it, and rereads it a lot, you're probably not able to do that.
Konoha was the strongest village. What economic, political, or even just biological things had to occur to make Konoha the strongest out of all the 5 ninja villages? And while some may write it off as simply, well, this is where Naruto was gonna be born, so we had to make Konoha that way, it's not quite that simple. In fact, there's a long storied history that makes a lot of sense in terms of village building that led to the power that Konoha achieved. But before we get to talking about fictional history, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you really like fictional history class, go ahead and hit that join button and become a member of the Weeb Alliance over here on YouTube. So how did Konoha become the biggest kid in class? Let's start this video in the only way that really makes sense, at the beginning. And I know what most of you are thinking.
Well, of course Konoha is the biggest kid in class. They had both the Senju and the Uchiha.
But what if I told you Konoha's strength began way before the Senju and the Uchiha decided to shake hands? What if I told you Konoha's strength was always fated because of its location. In the Naruto world, we are aware of one continent. This is the continent where the land of fire, the land of sound, the land of wind, the land of rock all exist. And on this one continent, the land of fire is directly in the middle. Equatorial, some might say. And I know what you're thinking, being in the middle doesn't necessarily make it a good place to be. Look at
like
Nebraska. But in a world where this is the only continent, being equatorial means a lot of things for you. Equatorial meaning that your country lays along the equator of the Earth. Countries that lay along the Earth's equator are usually warm and tropical, and therefore see dense growths of greenery and life, which is very consistent with what we see in Konoha. In fact, every bit of Konoha seems to be incredibly covered in trees, almost like it's a rainforest. I mean, Konoha literally means village hidden in the leaves, and the country is literally called the land of fire, implying warmth and heat. So agriculturally, the land of fire is very advantageous. It would have rich soil and be very good for farming. On top of that, its dense woods would provide cover for animals or humans. And even though the land of fire is central, it also has a lot of coast. Specifically, a coast that faces towards the hidden mist village and a coast that faces towards the hidden sand village. And I know what you're saying.
Well, Konoha does have significantly less coast than all the other countries.
But remember, there's only been confirmed life on this one continent. So having a coast that points in the direction of where there is no living beings means nothing. So by having waterways that face towards other countries you can trade with is also very advantageous politically and economically. So we take into account the fact that Konoha arguably has the least harsh weather, the land of mist being covered in mist, the land of clouds being high up and mountainous, the land of stone being basically stone and therefore impossible to plant crops and food on, and then the land of wind literally being a desert. Konoha is a green belt of incredible agricultural promise. So to assume...
So what we've already established here is that basically the same thing that happens in the real world. Farming will take you far. Barely anybody wants to do it, but there's a lot of money in agriculture.
That a lot of people would try to settle there is not ridiculous. And to assume that the strong would rise to the top of that crop and monopolize that area, which is very advantageous for easy living, is also not that ridiculous. Just how we got the Uchiha and the Senju. Resources are not infinite in the Naruto world. This is actually why the first and second Great Shinobi World Wars occurred. And resources also played a large factor in the third Great Shinobi World War. So in this green belt, I guess, of the land of fire, the strong would rise to the top. And the strong would only get stronger because of promises in agriculture and the ease of living. People in the hidden sand cannot focus on getting stronger as a ninja if they're hungry and thirsty. But enough about fictional geography. Let's talk about the Uchiha and the Senju. Obviously, in the Warring States period, they were warring factions, but they weren't necessarily always fighting each other just to fight each other. Essentially, it was well known that they were the two strongest clans. So if a village wanted to take over another village, they would hire either the Uchiha or the Senju to help them take over that other village. But if the village that was about to be invaded caught word that the village that was about to invade them hired the Senju, they would hire the Uchiha. And therefore, the Uchiha and the Senju fought proxy wars for generations. But fighting these proxy wars made both the Uchiha and the Senju significantly stronger. Obviously, yes, it also killed a lot of their children and resulted in their clans not being as large as they could be, but it sharpened the respective blades of both the Senju and the Uchiha. For reference, the Warring States period was 1,500 years at least. So that's a lot of time to perfect your craft of killing each other. And then one day, these two clans decide to come together. Now, the two clans who are considered the strongest clans on Earth, who have spent thousands of years sharpening their blades against each other, have become one unified force. The threat of the existence of this unified force is so significant, it causes the other countries to create hidden villages of their own. See, Konoha didn't inspire other countries to make their own villages, it scared them into it. But just because the hands were shooken between the Uchiha...
I mean, imagine, bro, the two biggest players, people that everybody afraid of, that'd be like us, I guess, what would be like us and Russia shaking hands and being like, all right, we're just gonna combine into one country. You understand how much fear that would probably strike the rest of the world? Like, if you just look at all the different things that people would assumably look at, you know, nuclear warheads, military strength, financial gain, the two different areas or the two things that we fight over the most, we can now combine and just be okay with equally sharing and just kind of alternate our leadership back and forth. And have the president of this new country be first from the U.S., then from Russia, then from the U.S., then from Russia, and just kind of bounce back and forth. Yeah, it would get pretty scary pretty quickly. And I think you see a lot of the countries band together, and we see a lot of it would go from the 7 continents to that would be the countries. It would be 7 of them. That's it. There would only be 7 countries on 7 continents.
Senju doesn't mean that the skirmishes were over. Madara wanted to be the Hokage, but Tobirama said that it should be brought up to a democratic vote amongst Konoha members, and the democratic process elected Hashirama. Now this isn't great, but Hashirama essentially goes, well, Madara, you can be my shadow Hokage, and sends Madara to deal with the other countries. But this isn't the first time that the Senju and the Uchiha had a different approach to something, and it definitely wouldn't be the last. Most specifically, I'm talking about the Uchihas want to stay within their own clan. What do I mean by that? Even after the formation of Konoha, the Uchihas decided to stay as a whole, as a clan. They didn't invite others to breed into their clan. There was no half Uchiha babies running around. In order to keep the strength of their clan pure, they continued to breed within themselves, making them almost a sovereign state inside of Konoha. One that would willingly participate in wars and back up Konoha in any matter, but still its own isolated cell. While the Senju did something that is incredibly important for the strengthening of Konoha. The Senju decided to cast their name to the side. They were no longer the Senju clan. They were a clan that lived in Konoha. So the Senju decided to marry outside of their clan, and they were led by their literal leader, Hashirama. See, Hashirama, though it was for political reasons, married an Uzumaki, and this set the precedent for all other Senju members, that they should marry outside of their clan in order to strengthen Konoha as a whole. This is why you don't see the Senjus running around Konoha like you used to see the Uchihas. It's not that they were wiped out or kicked out of Konoha, they've just taken other names. But that doesn't change the blood that's running through the veins of Konoha. Now, not only do you have an isolated sect of the Uchihas that still count towards your military force, but you also have the other strongest clan on Earth, increasing the strength of the entire village by marrying outside of their clan. And then when Madara gets fed up with being in the village and tries to rally the Uchihas against the village, the Uchihas kick him out, stopping the village from breaking in half and losing half of its fighting force. And it's at this point that we start to have the build up towards the First Great Shinobi World War. Hashirama,
it's just like, I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. So basically, one half of the clan strengthened everything. The other one, which was strong, strengthened themselves. And that's just kind of basically making your military power now that much stronger.
and Tobirama are able to kill Madara. That's all done. But Madara brings an idea to Hashirama during their battle, catching all of the tailed beasts, something Madara was able to do in order to fight Hashirama. So seeing the build up to the First Great Shinobi World War and no longer wanting war, Hashirama goes out and catches all of the tailed beasts, except for Shukaku, who the Wind Country had already caught. Land of Wind. Hashirama then calls the other Kages of all the other hidden villages. And here's the thing. The only reason this worked is because it was Konoha calling the conference. There had been skirmishes along the borders for years, but Konoha was the man with the big stick. And a large part of the reason they had the big stick was the fact that Madara went around to each village, specifically the village hidden in the stone, and told them they needed to be subservient to Konoha. And then he would proceed to kick the shit out of whoever was in charge there, like he did to Inoki and Mu. And it's at this meeting that Hashirama sells 7 of the tailed beasts to the other countries. Well, technically he wanted to give them away. Tobirama is the only reason he sold them. And while this...
Hey, look, no. I just had a real question. Do you guys really think that this could happen in real life? Do you think... It doesn't have to be like the U.S. either. Could any country call a meeting of every president or leader of at least the major countries? So what we consider a major country, the U.S., just people that operate, separate themselves. They don't really kind of conform to anybody. So maybe like Mexico, Canada, the UK... I think France operates differently. Germany, Russia. That'd be a lot of people to meet up. We probably might have to delegate because that'll be a very big meeting table. It's not gonna be a 5 round table like that. It's gonna be one of them long tables that you see at restaurants for a party of 14. Like it's gonna be a huge meeting. But do you think that could happen? Yes or no? Let me know down below.
This wouldn't stop the war from happening. It essentially funded Konoha to make it through it. Wars are incredibly expensive. In fact, the armistice that was signed at the end of the First Great Shinobi World War was signed because the countries were running out of resources. And the after-war realization that all of the countries were destroyed, had lost their Kages and all of their resources, put all of the countries into a depression after the First Great Shinobi World War, except for Konoha. Konoha had taken massive losses. They had lost both Hashirama and Tobirama in the war, but their war effort was essentially funded by the other villages, meaning that the economic disparity that they saw after the First Great Shinobi World War was significantly less than all the other hidden villages. That money could also be put towards repairing Konoha or setting up infrastructure or agriculture. And in fact, that money was used during the First Great Shinobi World War by Tobirama, who took the money of his brother's spoils and set up important systems in Konoha, specifically the Anbu, the police force, and the ninja school. He even went so far as to create the tuning exams. During a world war, Tobirama focused on infrastructure, specifically infrastructure that would keep Konoha whole with the police force and the Anbu, monitoring threats and keeping the status quo in a growing village. But he also focused on his war effort, creating the ninja school and the tuning exams to make sure that any ninja they put into the war front is A, old enough, and B, prepared. But Tobirama also focused on something else vitally important: research. Tobirama created the Shadow Clone, Flying Raijin, and Edo Tensei. And while he did all three of these things during the Warring States period, it set the precedent for scientific, well, I guess, ninjutsu research in Konoha. By focusing on academics and training the ninjas that they are creating in Konoha, it created a stronger class of ninja. I mean, think about how you pass through Ninja Academy. You have to create a shadow clone, a jutsu that hadn't existed until 10 years earlier when Tobirama created it. A jutsu that effectively doubles the fighting power of your village if every ninja on the front line knows how to do it. And this precedent for research would remain a key ingredient in Konoha's strength for many years down the line. Look at Tobirama's successor, Hiruzen, considered the professor. He was considered the professor because he learned every single jutsu and fighting technique of the leaf, except for Flying Raijin. But at the very highest level of shinobi, you had people actively searching for strength through the medium of identifying and figuring out multiple ninjutsus and fighting techniques. Look at the person Hiruzen adopted, Orochimaru, who had an endless quest to understand every single ninjutsu ever created, and therefore that drove him to figure out immortality. He rediscovered the jutsus of Tobirama and made them better. He figured out cloning, how to make Sharingans from scratch, how to graft new body parts onto existing people. Hell, he brought back wood release. While sometimes the research may not have been ethical, looking directly at you, Orochimaru, having research being done to actively enhance the ninjutsu of a village is massive for strength. Think of it a bit like weapons technology in our world. Having a plane that can fly and not be detected by sonar is significantly better than one that can be. But since we're talking about redefining battlefields, we have to talk about one of Orochimaru's partners, Tsunade. You see, Tsunade was a senju and therefore inherently was strong, a reality for a lot of people in Konoha at this current time who are nameless. But because of the economic disparity of the aftermath of the First Great Shinobi World War, we got the Second Great Shinobi World War. Now, who was fighting who is relatively hazy in this war. We just know that a lot of countries were in the land of rain. But the long line of academics who made their names by doing research into ninjutsu didn't stop with Hiruzen or Orochimaru. In fact, the Second Great Shinobi World War is where Tsunade made her name, for two reasons. One, with her almost omnipotent medical ninjutsu, she was able to counter the hundreds, if not thousands, of poisons that Granny Chiyo had created. You see, Granny Chiyo's whole thing was that she made a bunch of poisons that were all incurable and undetectable. Therefore, if her puppets even scraped you, you were dead because there was no cure. And that was kind of the Land of Wind's claim to fame. Granny Chiyo was the majority of their military force, but Tsunade was able to counter that, giving Konoha, the already stronger and economically more powerful country, a leg up. But on top of that, because of her exploits,
that kind of hits like with some of the disease that comes from overseas that hit here. It hits for a little bit, but then we heal it. You know what I'm saying? Then we get rid of it. We just don't do as far as the show does it, counteract it quickly and then go back to prosper, and we kind of heal it and then everything stays messed up. So we need to fix that. But there's some real world similarities with this.
In the Second Great Shinobi World War, she was able to make it a reality that every single three-man shinobi team should have a medical ninja. And by enacting this rule and making it a reality for Konoha, Konoha saw a massive increase in survivability and mission success. Think about it. If one of your team members got injured before, there was nothing you could do for them, and then you were down to two people. But if you have a doctor who can also fight there, they can bring that person back onto the field, which is going to massively improve improve your success rate in battle. And to this day, this is not something that other villages have instilled. It's still weirdly enough specifically from Konoha. We haven't seen it from the Hidden Cloud, the Hidden...
That makes me wonder, like, maybe y'all, if anybody here is serving the military, like, for like the people that are like medical, like in the field, combat medics, do they still actually do combat? Like, are they exactly like this? Or they still fight? They just can also like, oh, someone got shot. Like, let me stop shooting real quick and let me heal them back up to health. You know what I'm saying? Let me get them back right so at least they can defend themselves a little bit and then get back to shooting. Or are they strictly focused on medical stuff? Like, I'm genuinely curious.
Stone, the hidden wind, or the hidden water. So because of this and the vastness of the medical ninjas that Konoha has, they have better survivability and therefore larger military might than the other countries. And while their army may not technically be the largest because the Hidden Stone and Hidden Cloud are said to be larger, by keeping their strongest ninjas alive or just keeping many ninja alive, they're able to gain battle experience and also maintain the upper hand. Also, because their success rate on missions was higher because of the addition of a medical ninja, smaller countries were more likely to hire Konoha ninjas for missions. And since completing ninja missions is a large part of any hidden village's economy, this gave Konoha an economical leg up and allowed them to A, make their services cheaper, and B, guarantee that they're gonna get completed more often, which put villages like the Hidden Sand in a bind. See, during the Second and Third Great Shinobi World Wars, the Hidden Sand's entire objective was to increase their military might so that they would get hired for missions. This is more likely than not why puppeteering was made and why the Hidden Sand was so vehement on creating military might, because they wanted to make their ninja mission hirings cheaper so they could undercut Konoha, but they were never able to accomplish this. So now you have a rich country getting richer that has access to favorable ports, can give you cheap ninja missions. None of their ninjas are dying. They have an agricultural advantage over the other countries. And slowly but surely, Konoha began to increase the lead ahead of other villages, which is why the Third Great Shinobi World War happened. Essentially, when other villages began to thrive while others began to fail, the failing villages didn't like that very much. Specifically, the Hidden Stone, the Hidden Cloud, and the Hidden Mist. Take a look at a second at the political situation of the Third Great Shinobi World War. We know for a fact that the Hidden Stone and Konoha were warring. This is where the Battle of Kanami Bridge happens. Inoki sends a force of 1,000 shinobi to try and take over Konoha that Minato stops single-handedly. We know they're fighting. We also know that Konoha and the Hidden Cloud are fighting because Minato comes up against A and Killer B. And we also know that the Hidden Mist and Konoha are fighting because the Hidden Mist abduct Rin, put a Sobu in her, and try to send her back to Konoha to act as a Trojan horse. Essentially, the only village we don't know that's fighting Konoha is the Hidden Sand. But we know that Sasori gets the nickname Sorcery of the Red Sand during this war, so the Hidden Sand were fighting somebody, probably the Hidden Stone, but we don't know. But we know for sure that at least 3 villages are attempting to attack Konoha from basically all sides. And Konoha individually beats every single one of these villages in order. However, military might isn't everything. Sometimes you have to be bureaucratic. And bureaucracy is something that is learned. You're not just born with the ability to lead diplomatically, which is where another one of Konoha's many advantages comes in. The fact that they had a Kage for longer than any other village outside of the Hidden Stone. And here is it. Obviously, the Hidden Stone had Inoki for like 300 years. And so it was at the conclusion of the Third Great Shinobi World's War that Hiruzen realized that he needed to step down as Hokage to take the blame and the anger onto himself for the war. This was done mostly to soothe the Danzo, who wanted the Third Great Shinobi World War to continue until Konoha came out on top, which is arguably the way things were going. But by pulling out of the war at an appropriate time and putting an end to the bloodshed, Konoha was able to once again prosper economically. But since we're talking about Danzo, let's talk about Danzo. You may not agree with his approach. I know I don't. But Danzo's creation of the root is one of the reasons Konoha is as successful as it is. And here's the thing, Danzo creating the root isn't necessarily even that evil compared to some of the things other villages have done. Look at Kinkaku and Ginkaku attacking Tobirama during a peace summit. Hidden Cloud Jonin trying to abduct Hinata to restart the Third Great Shinobi World War. Inoki attempting to invade Konoha after an armistice had already been agreed upon. The Hidden Mist abducting a child to slap a tailed beast inside of her and have her destroy an entire village. When you look at all the various war crimes that have occurred over the duration of Naruto's history, the root starts to make a little bit of sense. The root begins to make even more sense when you look at how stable of Konoha has been. Obviously, Danzo, and therefore subsequently the Root, were responsible for the Uchiha massacre. Not great, I'll admit that. But the Uchiha massacre is significantly less bloody and less detrimental to the health of Konoha than a war between the Uchiha and the rest of Konoha would have been. Also, we don't necessarily know whether or not the Uchiha would have won this. Therefore, from Danzo's point of view, which would have been on the side of the loser if the Uchiha had won, having the Uchiha all die is significantly better for the stability of Konoha. And this is just one of the many things Danzo did to keep Konoha stable and powerful. He also managed to turn Hanzo the Salamander against the Akatsuki.
Which, although from a hindsight view, we can technically now see that really all that stuff was bad. Like, imagine if the Uchiha were there and they were actually able to work out peace, better situation. Turning Danzo against the Akatsuki actually made the even stronger Akatsuki and got everybody's tail beast took and started the fourth great Shinobi War. So, hindsight is 50-50, but or is it 2020? I forgot. Either way, it's perfect vision. But when they happened, it seemed good.
Managed to make Konoha come together as a whole by revealing that Naruto was the Jinchuriki to the Nine-Tails and making him the center of everybody's hate, giving them something to rally around. None of these things are good things. And all of these things probably had better solutions.
Yep.
But Danzo's work in the shadows, and therefore subsequently the work of the Root in the shadows, actually did a good job at keeping Konoha stable, while places like the Hidden Mist had a coup that Zabuza and Kisame were involved in. The Hidden Cloud had Kinkaku and Ginkaku, their two strongest shinobi, defect from the village and try to kill Tobirama. The Hidden Sands Hokage was killed by sorcery and turned into a puppet. I mean, I guess technically Orochimaru did kill Hiruzen, but Orochimaru also killed the Kase Kage. Honestly, the only village possibly more stable than Konoha is the Hidden Stone, and that's because of the wild amount of nationalism that they have for their village, and also the fact that they've had the same Kage for damn near 100 years. Like him or not, Danzo was doing what he believed was best for the Leaf. And even though his methods often resulted in bloodshed, it did usually stop conflict, or it undermined the strength of other villages, once again increasing the gap between Konoha and subsequent other villages. And that brings us to the modern era of Naruto, not Boruto. Naruto and Sasuke are born, and the accumulation of all the powerful bloodlines that have come to Konoha seeking refuge and community takes shape in the form of the Konoha 12, arguably the strongest generation of shinobi in Konoha ever, and therefore the strongest generation of shinobi ever. Using the prosperity and the systems put in place by Tobirama and many of those who came before them, the Konoha 12 are able to flourish until each one of them is a...
I've never seen anybody else in like the royal families, like they said, the 4 royal families. I've never seen them, marry out into other... Like, the Hyuga don't have anything mixed with their bloodlines, do they? I mean, maybe the side branches, and not just the main branch, but even, like, Neji's branch, I mean, it's all Hyuga, so wouldn't they be kind of the same boat as the Uchiha?
High Jonin to low Kage to actual god-level shinobi. Arguably, the weakest member of the Konoha 12 is Ino. Ino, who single-handedly runs the Interrogation Corps and the Survey Corps that keep a field over Konoha at all points, allowing Konoha to effectively understand anybody leaving or entering Konoha at any given point. This is done by registering chakra signals with Ino's Survey Corps, and if an unregistered chakra signal comes into Konoha at any point, Ino will know where and when. This is a borderline impenetrable defense around an already very powerful village, and that is coming from the weakest member. Kiba, who's probably the least useful member of the Konoha 12, is incredibly apt at tracking, fighting, and being a police asset. Shino, who's arguably the least talked about member of the Konoha 12, is easily high Jonin to low Kage level, and if he used some of the bugs that he could use but refuses to use on moral grounds, he would be high Kage level. Not to mention, now we're getting into Boruto era, that Kakashi, in combination with the Kaminarin group, managed to usher in an era of technological advancement in Konoha, making Konoha now essentially the tech capital of the ninja world. Yes, trains run into every village, but those trains are created in Konoha. Shinobi-ware, like the one that Boruto wore during the Chunin exams that allowed him to create any jutsu he wanted, was created in Konoha. Because of the route set by Tobirama, Hiruzen, Tsunade, and Orochimaru, that Konoha is the center for research. So in summation, an equatorial location that allowed for...
Come on now, my boy Jiraiya was doing research, bro. I mean, every research got their goods and their bads, but we can't leave out Jiraiya's research, can we?
Agricultural advancements
I mean-
and advantageous ports to shipping to other countries set the groundwork for groups of people to come to this area, at which point the strongest rose to the top in form of the Senju and the Uchiha. The combination of these clans and the advancement in technological and ninjutsu research allowed Konoha to separate from other villages, backed largely by a massive income of wealth by Hashirama selling the tailed beasts, revolutionizing the way that they approach war by combining medical ninjutsus to frontline teams, allowed Konoha to earn more in shinobi missions, once again bolstering the economy. Then the combination of all these powerful bloodlines, all living under the same roof, looking to live in the most rich and prosperous country on Earth, created the strongest generation of ninja, the Konoha 12. And now the Konoha 12 are the ruling class of Konoha, while their children are also incredibly strong. But the high mobility that has now been granted by technological upgrades like the Thunder Trains has created interbreeding between villages. Look at Shikamaru and Tamari, meaning that the Senju's
Shoji
idea
and,
to strengthen a
I forgot
village
his
is
wife.
now growing out even further. Konoha's bloodline is now seeping into the outer world, making the ninja world as a whole stronger. That is why Konoha is the strongest village. I feel like I just wrote my own Guns, Germs, and Steel for Naruto. But if you enjoyed this
I mean, I like that because now it leads into the category of now not only is it going to be the strongest village, but now it's going to lead into their bloodlines going out into the world and making just the ninja in general strong, which is much needed with the Otsutsuki coming through the town. So now obviously we probably won't go too deep after that. You know, I mean, we probably won't go see like a third generation of Naruto or anything like that, but probably not. A lot of y'all probably don't want to see that, but hey, just for me and here the other day, I would like to say that this is a very well done video to show exactly how much stronger Konoha is than the rest of the world. I mean, we can clearly see the might of the military, diplomatic process. They've got agriculture and just ways to make money. I mean, it's not even just agriculture no more. Obviously, like you said, IT and tech, the ability to have lower costing missions so that people that need help can afford help and they get way more help, which, you know, if you lower the price, get more requests, you'll still get the same money as a high request with low high money spending with low requests. So they found a good balance between that. You've also just got the two strongest formerly fighting clans that started it, one of which managed to branch out and now make a little bit of each clan stronger to up the fighting force. And just imagine if the Uchiha had did the same thing, or at least did like half, like, you know, some of us are going to stay pure, some of us are going to go spread out. So that way you still have purebred Uchihas that are just going to be able to get EMS or get MS and EMS and all that type of stuff. But you got the ones spreading out, so now they're mixing at least their Uchiha sense with other other clans. It's still like with Sasuke's case, Sadara still ended up with both, you know, with Sharingans in our eyes, and an MS and an EMS. So, or we'll see if it's EMS, but at least with the MS. So still is possible. So they could have branched out too. Now imagine how much stronger, really stronger, the village would have been at that point. It probably would have had a lot less unrest. They probably would have been more willing to make them, you know, Hokage. Ooh, excuse me. There could have been more ways to even make them even stronger than they already are, but obviously breeding out, financial gain, the ability to be strong in war, the ability to always have somebody in the shadows to make sure that you're pushing everybody a little bit farther down without, you know, really making it seem like you're pushing everybody down. And you have what it takes to become the strongest village in their world. You know what I'm saying? But let me know down below, what do you guys think, man? If you guys had to rank them 1 through 5, how would you rank the strength of the villages based off everything we talked about today? So like their ability to gain finances, ability to fight, and ability to diplomatically lead. I would say it's, you know, Konoha, right behind them, the cloud, sand, and then the rain, and then the stone. So, I mean, that's what I would assume would be like my 5. Did I say rain? I meant mist. I don't know why I keep saying rain, but that's what my 5 would be. Let me know where you guys would kind of rank it. Yes, I do have the cloud above the sand, just because like the sand just doesn't feel like I just don't feel like they make that much money. Even he said like they were struggling, and they are still continuously struggling to make money. And in an all-out fight against villages, I don't know, I just feel like the cloud would take the sand. That's just me personally. I mean, and then being high up in the mountains, there are mountainous types of things that you can sell off. There's still goods in the mountains, riches in the mountains. Not too much you can do with some sand. I'm not gonna lie, not too much you can do with some sand. So let me know what you guys though feel about it down below. We'll definitely jump to well, actually, that makes me wonder, why is the mist not stronger? You have literally fishing. Could be your main import. Fish and sushi and just seafood in general tastes delicious. I'll be over there spending a bag. Them seafood boils will be delicious. Well, let me know what you guys think about it down below. What are your top, how would you rank the top 5? And what do you guys think about this video? I'll catch you guys in the next Anime Tuesday video, man. It's me, your boy Sean, this movie, Black Avatar, King Leo. Catch you guys in the next video. I'm going for the day. Peace.